I believe there's a microphone. I'm going to call on this young lady.
Yes. I have one comment before my question, which is, it seemed interesting that the two people who were speaking on behalf of religion seemed, to my ears, to be sounding like the Supreme Court in some religious cases where they say, it's okay if we have creches and school prayer because it doesn't actually mean anything religious or spiritual, and therefore religion is reasonable because it actually doesn't mean what it's supposed to mean. My question is, do you think that it would be possible in this country to sort of like exclude people who don't believe in evolution from scientific or managerial jobs that require logic and judgment on the grounds that if you don't believe in evolution or if you believe that the world is only 6,000 years old, that by itself shows that you aren't capable of those jobs?
Sure. I mean, you can't be a basketball player if you can't shoot a free throw. Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't join, a scientific sort of community if you reject the very foundation of science. I mean, of course, yeah. I don't see why that's
well,
controversial.
I would just add to that there is an insidious effort to equalize these two approaches
right, that's the
by
point.
the theory of intelligent design, which is because they realize that creationism has a bad odor nowadays. But obviously, they're not comparable, and whether you could enforce such a rule, I'm not sure.
One thing I'd like to add to that is that I'm often misconstrued as advocating that we pass laws against religious belief, that somehow we create some mechanism whereby we really turn down the screws on religious people. I'm not advocating that at all. I'm really advocating just new rules of conversation. I mean, ask yourself, what do we do with the astrologers? I mean, how have we managed to keep astrologers off the Supreme Court or off our medical boards,
but not out of the White House?
Yeah, well, there's always marriage, the peril of marriage, perhaps. But by and large, astrologers are not acquiring vast responsibility in our society, and we're not continually ambushed by the neurosurgeon who doesn't want to perform surgery that day because Saturn is in retrograde or whatever. I mean, this is not happening. It's not happening because when someone talks with too much conviction about the effect of the planets on human affairs, we begin to stop listening to them. We stop taking them seriously. They don't get promoted. There's no laws involved. And I just think that should happen when people begin to express their certainty that Jesus is coming back in their lifetime, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. Good.
Religion is a historical and philosophical tradition. And in the philosophical tradition, we read a lot of text. And we read them with the notion that we have a 20th century view. And I heard, Reza, you talked a lot about our newfound sophistication. Well, in our newfound sophistication, we reject a lot of views. I mean, the Cartesian view of knowledge is a great example. Most of us no longer believe that. And a lot of the texts that you and any religious person refers to are ancient texts. So in this 20th century view, how is it, from a philosophical tradition, how do we view those texts?
I mean, isn't there something to be said about their ancient text? And let's not emotionalize them. Let's just say, should they be viewed the same way we look at a lot of other philosophical works, and should we simply say, it's no longer applicable? They're not good, they're not bad, they just no longer have relevance in today's day and age.
Well, that's an excellent question, by the way. I think that there are two ways to view scripture or text. And first of all, you're absolutely right. I mean, the entirety of human history is inextricably bound to religion. It cannot be divided. Or the conception of religion as a language, and we're tossing this word religion around a lot. We should figure out what we mean when we say it. Religion is the language through which one describes sort of the transcendence. And by transcendence, I don't mean anything more complicated than that which lies beyond our material realm, our experience of the material realm. We need a means through which we can describe this, to which we can express it to ourselves, and more importantly, to one another. And religion provides that language. Religion is not something you believe in or you don't believe in. Again, that I think is a misunderstanding of what religion, the function of religion, and it's a misunderstanding that is primarily found amongst people of religion. The comment that you made about scriptures and how to understand them, very, very good question. The way that I think that, scholars of religion, historians of religion, like Jonathan and myself, the way we look at religions or scriptures, is essentially as a documentation of this sort of experience, this historical experience of the transcendence, and the human need to sort of express that through symbols and through metaphors and through stories, through sacred history. Now, you can take a completely secularist view of it and say that the value of this text is to provide us this conception of the evolution of thought that is necessary when talking about our ever-changing experience of the divine, so that the scriptures, so when you read the Book of Mormon, for instance, which is about 150 years old, it has a profoundly different sense of morality than, say, the Book of Genesis does, or that the Mahabharata does, or the Ramayana does, or the Gita does, etc., etc. But there is another way of looking at Scripture, and it's sort of the faith perspective, if you will, that what we see here in this long and intimately connected history of religion is not just an attempt for human beings to describe their numinous encounter with the divine, with the transcendence, their experience of transcendence. But there's another aspect to it, in that there is an attempt by that transcendent reality to sort of communicate itself, to self-communicate itself to human beings, and that these scriptures are sort of those experiences of it. So in that sense, I don't think you need to invalidate one scripture because of how old it is, or you don't need to invalidate one scripture in comparison to another scripture. You just have to understand that these are the attempts, the ongoing attempts of humanity, which will go on for thousands of years. We've been talking about the death of God for a long, long time, and it hasn't happened. It's going to go on for thousands of years, but it is going to change as our understanding of reality changes, as we change the way in which we express this experience. So in many ways, to me, the real prophets in our midst are the scientists, are the theoretical physicists who are trying to create a different language through which we can understand reality.